G'day mate, and welcome back to Oxygen Not Included with me, JD. In our last episode, so let's start with last episode. Last episode, we exposed our leaky oil fissure. At the same time, we can go over here and start getting clean water should we need it. Our tank's still pretty full, we don't really need to worry about it yet. And currently our steam geyser is overpressurized with oxygen, so there's no real point to opening up this area just yet. There is in the future, but for right now I can just stay as it is. At the same time, we also set up how to cool the oil to make sure it doesn't get too hot. As you can see, it is fairly warm. We could add in temp shift plates, etc. if we wanted to, but I don't really think there is a need to. The only thing I probably should have done is I probably should have put in a manual airlock sideways right there. That will heat up over time, but hopefully it'll sort of minimize the amount of heat that gets transferred through. Being it is metal, it will still transfer a good amount of heat. There's not really a lot we can do about that. It just is what it is. This episode, I want to set up oil processing. We've done the research, and we'll actually start the next research, which is the polymer press, which will let us make plastic. At the same time, I want to bring in some new dupes. So we're going to set the dupes off, and it's going to be their job to build their own beds. I figure that's something we shouldn't have to do in creative mode. There's been enough of them. They should master how to build a bedroom by now. 4 door. Ooh. There and there. That's priority 5. They're all priority 5. In theory, they should get done. We're going to choose a duplicate. And you know what? I should take the wart seed or the puffet. We need somebody who's great at construction. Or we could take... No, we're going to have to take Meep. We're going to have to take Meep. Only because they are so good at being actually an artist. They're squeamish, so they won't take care of other people. That's perfectly fine. But they have 8 in creativity to start with an interest in doing art. So we're going to take on a Meep. We're going to print off a Meep. We're going to set up jobs and throw... I'm going to throw Meep in there. And our Tinkerer is now done. They still have a morale of 15. So we can move our Tinkerer up to there. We don't... Oh, we got 20 morale. This tier's 20. So if one duplicate has a morale of 20, good chance all of them actually do. So I'm going to move people up to that position. Another reason being that... So Meat just got printed and has 5 stress. But nobody else does. Okay? Even our scientist, so learning plus 5, who you can see is up here and only has a morale of 17, has 0 stress. So in theory, we can support everybody at this role. So I'm going to take our farmer up. I'm going to take our rancher up. Our chef has finished their cooking degree. So what else? They were a gopher. They can go up and be a courier. That's perfectly fine. Yeah. Alright, so we're done with that. Meep's got a bed. In theory, he'll build his bed. Possibly, maybe. If not, maybe people will just put things into storage because there's still lots of things that need to go into storage. In the meantime, we want to look at somewhere to actually produce oil. Okay? And I've sort of decided that I'd like to refine oil into petroleum up here. And then I want to make plastic over here. Because I know from experience that the plastic machine is a very, very, very hot machine. So doing it in a cold biome is always highly recommended. You will destroy the biome. I fully warn you of that. But yeah, it is what it is. So we're just going to deconstruct, oops, buildings. I'm just going to deconstruct these tiles, insulate that in as well, and we're just going to cut out ourselves a little bit of working room. Is that going to be enough? Possibly. Okay. Now, anything that's abyssalite can stay as abyssalite. It is, as we covered before, a perfect insulator. So I don't need to worry about that. I do need some sort of airlock. Okay, let's go through refinement. So our oil refinery takes in crude oil and power with a liquid intake and a liquid outtake, and also needs a duplicate to physically stand there and run it. It also produces petroleum at 5 kilos, plus natural gas at 90 grams per second, plus a whole bunch of heat. Okay, so it actually has a natural gas that sort of just flows out of the machine. So I need to sort of, well, we should sort of consider that when building the room. So I'm going to put a manual airlock there. I'm going to take our ladder all the way up so our duplicates can get in there. I'm going to ask them to sweep it. I don't know if they actually will ever get around to it. And then we're going to go in our refinement. I'm going to dump down our oil refinery. So we have an input and an output. Okay, if I put that there. Now we already know that any hot oil that we have excess out of this system. So if I ask this to make make 10 of those. Okay. As the duplicate runs this system, this machine, it'll take the oil that's in there at 35 degrees and feed it out, feed it back into the reservoir, loop it back out, and anything that gets over the amount that we've set here, being 300 degrees Celsius, will get pumped out this liquid shutoff. So I need to take that liquid and I need to pump it up to here, not necessarily straight into the machine, probably into another storage container, because we don't want any of these pipes to back up. Okay, so we know your output has to go to your input. That's easy enough. Your output is gonna snake through there actually. And plumbing, liquid bridge, liquid bridge, liquid bridge. Because this is going to be potentially very, very, very hot oil. So I definitely want to make sure it is in an insulated pipe all the way up until it gets into the entrance. At the same time, our output from this could go straight into our plastic machines, which as I said, I'm still planning on putting over here. It could also go into another liquid reservoir. Okay, it's not a bad idea to put it into a liquid reservoir. But the other thing I do need to point out, and again, it's a choice. If you have a lot of duplicates, this takes in 10 kilos of crude oil and puts out 5 kilos of petroleum. So you can only run one machine per oil pipe. If you happen to have taken 2 oil pipes up here, by all means, you can run 2 machines. It is something to keep in mind. In our case, we've only got 1 oil pipe, so we're only going to run 1 machine. And we're going to take our insulated pipe out of there, into there. So, we've got that system cleared up. Now, there's a lot of stuff on the ground that has to be swept up. You can see we've got something off-putting gas here, which will be bleach stone, being this material here, which will output chlorine. For the moment, we're not going to try and deal with all that. Ideally, what we'd like to do is we'd like to put in a gas pump. We'll put it right there. We're going to put in a gas pipe element sensor. Yeah. We're going to put in a gas shutoff. There. I'm also going to put in a automation. I'm going to put in an Atmos sensor. I'm going to do a bit of automation whilst we're here. So I'm going to hook that up to there. We know a gas pump, going back to its info page, puts out 500 grams per second. So we want this to be above 500 grams. I don't want it to be sucking away if there's nothing in the air. Same time, we're just going to use a normal gas pipe because it really doesn't matter for the moment. I'm going to run it through there. I'm going to have you pick natural gas because we know this oil refinery will output natural gas when it's running. We have nowhere to put the natural gas, so we're going to put down just a gas reservoir. I thought I was a few tiles too short. Yay, mix more gases into the room. It's fine. Gas reservoir, right there. Ventilation, normal pipe, into there. So, if you find natural gas, you are going to flick an automation switch to allow this to have the gas move into this secondary pipe. If it's not natural gas, it'll keep flowing straight past that. And we're just going to vent it out there. Okay? I want to be able to clear all the gases out of this room that aren't natural gas and pump them out and keep everything else where it is. At the same time, we need a lot of power cables. That's got to be hooked up. That's got to be hooked up. How is our power? We're not blowing the circuit yet, so let's just keep adding to it. Ideally, by this point, you probably should have replaced a lot of your original cable with the higher quality conductive wire. No liquid output. No, you don't have a liquid output. I hooked that up the wrong way. Plumbing. Insulated. Done. Okay. So we've pumped crude oil out, pumped crude oil back in, and we now have crude oil at a nice balmy 200 degrees, 280 odd degrees Celsius. And it's circling around the system non-stop, keeps heating up. Crude oil at 300 degrees. What do we set this to? 300 degrees. Which means that oil will get kicked out of the system, go up here to this reservoir, pump straight through this reservoir into this oil refinery at 300 degrees still. It will cool down slowly. It will also heat up this environment. So again, we're probably going to have to look at another cooling loop. Just something else to keep in mind. More cooling loops. And our pump is... We're actually going to flip that to be the opposite. Because honestly, I'd like to pull a vacuum in here. If I can pull a vacuum in here, and we can have a vacuum, then I don't have to have a lot of these sorters in here, because we know the only air that should be in here would be natural gas. Providing we can actually get rid of... No, is it there? Bleach stone. Probably no. Get rid of it. So we had oil come in at 300 degrees, and straight away, by processing it, we destroyed a lot of temperature to bring that down to just 75 degrees. So we've taken hot oil that we've had to manually cool down by exchanging the heat with somewhere else, taken it up to here, added more heat into the system, taken that excess heat, pumped it back out, and turn it into petroleum, cooling it back down. So yeah, we're destroying heat at every single step along the way. At the same time, let's just get some radiant pipe. So you're going to come out potentially on the right. Ooh. You know what? I'm just going to bring it up to there. We'll do radiant, 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 radiant. I have to have my sensor. Ventilation. I'd have to have my sensor. I have it there or there. Let's have the sensor on. Let's have the sensor on that side. There are no good choices. Ideally, I'd want it like the sensor and then straight. Oh, actually, let's deconstruct that. That's my answer. Deconstruct that. Put the gas pump there instead. Hook the gas pipe that way. Hook the automation. Automation overlay. Oop, that one. That goes that way instead. Power overlay. Power wire. Goes there instead. Done. So now we can go back to ventilation, gas shut off. Pop that in there. Back to our radiant pipe. Then insulated pipe into there. We're going to go automation. Hook those two together. We're going to set you to be 60 degrees as well. Is perfectly fine. One of you needs power. Done. We want another one of those. We want another one of those. We want a bit of automation wire again. We're going to want a bit of power wire again. We want to copy your settings from there to there. And then the only thing we need to do is deconstruct one pipe that's too long. But again, prime the system. This looks like it's probably got enough hydrogen in it. So if I take my gas bridge, deconstruct. I'm actually going to leave that right where it is. And just run it that way. And voila. It'll be primed. It'll be filled and primed eventually. If you're above 6 degrees, it passes out. Yeah, duplicates will slowly clear this area out. We are slowly gathering up what little air is in this room and pumping it out. If I can get this down to a complete vacuum, along with a better door shuffle, so I don't let too much oxygen into the room, I can actually remove a lot of this automation and just have the natural gas being pumped straight out. Technically, oxygen should fill the top of the room and natural gas should fill the bottom of the room. So I could always come out to like a corner and just build a little, for lack of a better word, sump that the natural gas will sit in, and I can just evacuate that little sump out. But we do have a tiny bit of other stuff for some reason. Obviously, there was already something in the pipe when it turned on, or I cut the power. That's entirely possible. But yeah, we're pumping oxygen out, we're pumping hydrogen out. Anytime we find natural gas, it's going straight along. You have not nearly enough oil to run, which means we need to make another 10 of them. So, because of our exceedingly large buffers of having 5 ton in here and our oil being required to be preheated to be processed, you can always, and it's like something we probably should do in good practice. We want output. So the output always chooses an input first. The rules of plumbing. So if I bring that to there, and that to there, I do a liquid bridge, it will always, the oil will always flow through the bridge first. If the bridge is full, yep, if the bridge is full, if the bridge is full and all backed up, then we might not want to store the whole 5 tons worth of oil here. We might want to just pass the oil straight through. So what we can do is, if this is all backed up, because we're not actually using it as a coolant enough, right? When it comes back to the tank, it'll plumb through the bridge. If that's backed up, it'll plumb to this pipe instead. And what we can do is we can literally bridge over that straight into our superheated output pipe and straight up to our oil refinery to start making plastic. Unfortunately, we're short on coolant, so we have to wait for the coolant to back up at least before we can go do anything else. In saying this, this does not produce a lot of oil. Eruption period 600 seconds every 600 seconds. Active period 0.4 cycles every 6 cycles. Next dormancy. So this never goes dormant, and it's going to put out 300 grams every second. So this is actually a really weird one. I've never had this before. But it's going to always basically output 313 grams of oil, which is not a lot. It really, really isn't. Had I already done the analysis and known that, I probably would have made this whole thing a lot smaller and really shoved everything in right underneath it. Or maybe even right beside it. Because it's never, ever going to turn off. And it is only going to give us a very, very much a dribble of oil here, there, and everywhere. And we don't really have much extra hydrogen coming. And nobody's bothered to build any beds. So, Meep's probably sleeping on the ground tonight. But you know what? I think that's where we're going to leave it. We've got oil up and running. We've got a tiny bit of petroleum. Next episode, we'll change that back. So next episode, we're going to look at actually getting some plastic being produced. We're going to come to a cold biome, we're going to burrow our way in, let the dupes get access, and start making some plastic, along with playing with the anti-entropy thermo nullifier, which is basically a giant heatsink. So we'll play with all that sort of fun stuff in the next episode. Thank you guys so much for watching. As always, do hope you're enjoying, do hope you're learning along the way. And somebody's on fire. Oh, it's hot up there, is it? It is, yeah, 40, 50 odd degrees. Okay, I might want to drop that down because I forgot that I need to actually have tubes in there. And you've got some wounds, which we will cover in the next episode. Thank you guys so much for watching. Do hope you're enjoying. And I'll see you in the next one. All right, bye.